Chapter 24 for the Night Witch 1. As the dark moonlight gradually faded, the Night Witch raised her hand, and a wisp of dark light fell from her palm. The gentle light, yet containing a strange power, slowly enveloped Shunliuxing's eyes. "Child, your eyes should have seen the light of the world." As the Night Witch's deep and resonant incantation faded, the seal on Shunliuxing's eyes quietly crumbled. Layers of restrictions vanished like peeling dust into the night. In an instant, light flooded into her world. Shunliuxing's eyelashes trembled slightly, and tears welled in her eyes. She clutched her chest and stared blankly ahead. It was a long-lost sight, a valley, black mist, night, and burning bones standing beside her. She saw it clearly. "I can see." Shunliuxing's voice trembled, and tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. Her pupils, which were always covered by a layer of white substance, regained their clarity. She saw the light, a beautiful valley bathed in purple moonlight, with mysterious and unpredictable flowers and plants, and the mysterious and powerful Night Witch sitting on a swing. Fungu suddenly reached out and hugged her tightly, his voice almost screaming with excitement. "You saw it. You finally saw it. Grandmother, you really could save her. You really could." The Night Witch watched this scene, her eyes filled with no joy, only a deeper darkness. She murmured to herself, "In the end, you still chose to fight, but fate never changes because of individual will." Burning Bone's face, that face twisted and ugly by bloodline and destiny, is now laid bare in the light. His skin was dark, and his features were distorted by his cursed bloodline, resembling a wreckage scorched by flames. He instinctively shrank back, pulled his hood down sharply, and buried his face in the shadows. Most of the people of the Dark Moon Empire look like these dark creatures. Because of the Night Witch's corruption, their lineage was branded with a shameful label, making the Burning Bones even uglier than the other moon people of the Dark Moon Empire. Once their strength reaches a certain level, they will choose to conceal their faces, hiding the dark marks left by Samuel when he created them. "Don't look at me." His voice was hoarse and panicked. "Meteor, don't look." He pulled hard on his hood to cover his face. He was a little scared. If the beautiful and pure Shunliuxing had seen his face back then, would she still be able to become his friend? He lacked such confidence. He preferred to remain a shadow forever, guarding the fleeting meteor. Shunliuxing froze for a moment, her eyes reddening. The next moment, she reached out and gently but firmly lifted his tattered hood. Burning Bone's face was completely exposed to the light. His pupils trembled, and his blood-red eyes were filled with panic and inferiority. He tried to struggle, but Shunliuxing suddenly lunged forward and hugged him tightly. "Bone burning," she called softly, her voice trembling with tenderness. "I've never cared about what you look like." Beauty and ugliness are relative concepts. Perhaps even Shunliuxing had never seen a handsome man like Zhang Yi, so he could accept Fungu's peculiar appearance. Burning Bone shuddered, his body stiffening like a stone. His fingers trembled, and tears welled up in his eyes, sliding down his cheeks. Shunliuxing raised her head, her eyes brimming with tears yet filled with a smile. "In my eyes, you have always been Fungu, my protector." His throat tightened and his heart pounded violently. Years of inferiority and pain burst forth like a flood, almost completely overwhelming him. Within the black mist, the Night Witch watched silently, her gaze complex. She could see that there was a bond between the two that transcended blood ties and curses. But Fungu's thoughts were taken back to a long time ago, the moment they first met. In the desolate valley where the two great empires meet, the wind howls. Burning Bone sat alone among the rocks, holding a bone flute in his arms. The bone flute was carved from the bones of an unknown animal and gleamed with a chilling white light. He brought the flute to his lips and played a low, lonely melody. The voice was filled with desolation and longing, like the howl of wolves in the wilderness, drifting between heaven and earth. Just then, a girl's figure slowly appeared at the other end of the valley. Instant meteor. She stopped in her tracks, deeply captivated by the sound of the flute. Although her eyes were shrouded in the spell, she could hear and she could feel. The melody contains loneliness, longing, and unspoken tenderness. What a beautiful voice! The girl murmured softly as she followed the sound of the flute toward him. Fungu looked up in astonishment, and his heart clenched when he saw who it was. She is so beautiful. Even with her eyes covered, she still seemed to radiate light. Her presence brought a spring-like warmth to the desolate valley. Fungu hurriedly pulled up the hood of his cloak, lowered his head, and dared not look directly at her. His face, his blood, his ugliness, he didn't want anyone to see them. You play the flute so beautifully. Shumliuxing sat down beside him and listened quietly, without the slightest hint of disgust or aloofness. Burning Bones' fingers trembled, and the flute music paused for a moment. But with her encouragement, he started playing again. At that moment, he understood. His life had never been so warm. He fell in love with her. But he also knew that this love could only be buried deep in his heart. Because he is ugly, because he is lowly, because he is unworthy. Even today, when the meteor regained its light and saw its ugliest appearance, it thought it would be abandoned and despised. However, she took off his hood and hugged him. Burning Bones, in my heart you have never been a monster. Her voice fell softly, yet it was more powerful than any force. Tears streamed down Fungu's face as he trembled and reached out to gently embrace her. At that moment, it seemed as if a crack was torn open in the darkness in his heart, letting in a faint but real ray of light. Just then, from outside the valley came a familiar sound of footsteps that made them uneasy. Meteor and Burning Bones suddenly turned around. At the entrance to the valley, the mist was torn apart, and several figures slowly walked in. The young man at the head of the group was dressed in menacing black armor, his eyes sharp as knives. His steps were steady, exuding an unparalleled aura. The person who arrived was none other than Zhang Yi. The Dark Sun Forest is only so big, they have no way to escape. Brian followed their scent, and finding them was only a matter of time. Behind Zhang Yi, Yang Xinshin, Morgan, King Arthur, Saladin, and others appeared one by one. Their arrival caused the stagnant air in the valley to tighten suddenly. Fungu's expression instantly froze, and he tightly protected Shun Liuxing in front of him. The Night Witch raised her eyes, her gaze falling on Zhang Yi, and an unprecedented turmoil appeared in her deep eyes. This valley, which has been tranquil for so many years, is destined to be anything but peaceful tonight. Chapter 24:05 The Night Witch 2. Deep within the Dark Sun Forest, the valley remains tranquil and mysterious. Thick fog enveloped the surroundings, and layers of black leaves hung down, obscuring the sky and leaving only a few wisps of moonlight, like silver threads dissolving into the night. Amidst the swirling fog, Zhang Yi and his group finally arrived. Zhang Yi, clad in the armor of the End Demon God, held the Sword of Judgment in his right hand, and it was that sword that caused the Night Witch's eyes to change drastically. Others might not sense anything different about it, but someone of the Night Witch's level of strength would naturally be able to sense that it belongs to the Omega-level ability user and is a powerful remnant of the Aihen race. She stared intently at Zhang Yi, her previous composure gone. Zhang Yi exuded no murderous aura, and he held his sword in a reverse grip, hanging it in front of him as a sign of respect. I apologize for disturbing you, Night Witch. I have come to pay my respects at the request of the 7 Silver Moon Guardians of the Radiant Moon Empire and the 7 Black Moon Priests of the Dark Moon Empire. Zhang Yi nodded slightly, showing no fear in the face of the former First Black Moon Priest. Having reached his current level of strength, he now possesses the ability to escape from most of the world's strongest individuals. Moreover, within his alternate dimension, he also possesses Ling, his most prized possession. That sword, the Night Witch said, looking at the Eternal Judgment Sword in Zhang Yi's hand, her tone somewhat nostalgic. I once saw it in the database of ancient documents. You obtained it, which means you gained the approval of the 2nd generation of humans, right? Zhang Yi nodded, acknowledging the matter. While the two were talking, Zhang Yi glanced at the two people in front of him out of the corner of his eye. King Arthur and Saladin, among others, also fixed their gazes on the meteor. After experiencing so many setbacks, they finally found the target of their mission, the fire seed cultivated by the Radiant Moon Empire. If we bring the meteorite back and sacrifice her life, we can ignite the flames and stabilize the sealing power of the Silver Moon Throne. Their gazes toward the meteor shower held a newfound fervor and eagerness. However, they did not act rashly. The situation was unclear, and they had to follow Zhang Yi's instructions. At this moment, Fenggu was kneeling in the center of the valley, his figure straight and his back stiff. He placed one hand on the ground, his fingers digging deep into the soil, as if drawing his last courage from the earth. His other arm embraced Shunliuxing, who was kneeling beside him. An intense rage burned fiercely in his eyes. Why do these people still bother them when he has already restored the light to the meteor shower? When a person experiences immense happiness and then loses it in an instant, it undoubtedly brings immense pain and anger. Burning Bone's body trembled violently, and he made no attempt to conceal his killing intent. Shunliuxing stood beside him, her eyes having just regained their sight. Her long-lost pupils were now as clear as ever, yet filled with bewilderment. The Night Witch remained seated on the swing, showing no intention of getting up. As the former First Black Moon Priestess, she understood the importance of the fire better than anyone else. That's why she said that burning one's bones is a meaningless struggle against fate. Because the people of the two great empires will definitely spare no effort to take her away. However, meeting the Earthlings was somewhat unexpected for her. Those sixth-generation humans, whom they had observed for millions of years, were barely considered a relatively successful group, yet they had grown to such an extent so quickly. The Night Witch rose to her feet, her figure shrouded in the dark moonlight, seemingly blending into the forest itself, mysterious, distant, and untouchable. She gazed silently at Burning Bones and Instant Meteor, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and a cold indifference that seemed to see through everything. We are taking the spark with us. You should understand the consequences of losing it. Zhang Yi maintained a respectful tone, but his words were very forceful. Burning Bone's body suddenly trembled, and he abruptly raised his head, the burning flames in his eyes instantly transforming into vigilance and hostility. He suddenly stood up, shielding Shunliuxing behind him, his arms outstretched, and his breath surged forth. You won't take her away. You won't take her life. Burning Bone's voice was hoarse, yet it carried a mad, unwavering persistence. He knew he couldn't avoid it. He had to face it. Zhang Yi did not rush forward, but stopped at the valley entrance, calmly looking at the Night Witch in front of the swing set. Compared to Burning Bone's hostility, his expression remained calm and composed, without the slightest ripple. Lady the Night Witch. Zhang Yi spoke in a low voice, his tone respectful. As a representative of the sixth generation, I am honored to meet you here. My purpose in coming here is not to offend, but to bring back the meteor shower. This is a mission entrusted to me by both the Dark Moon Empire and the Radiant Moon Empire. The Witch of the Night gazed down silently, her eyes deep and unfathomable. Her voice seemed to echo from the depths of the black mist, ethereal and indifferent. Bring it back? But why should I agree to that? Her gaze shifted slightly, landing on Shunliuxing, before returning to Zhang Yi after a moment, like a sharp needle piercing the heart. Zhang Yi remained calm and slowly replied, because if we don't do this, Samuel's seal will break prematurely. At that time, the entire moon will be destroyed, and all living beings will vanish in the collapse. Then, neither the Dark Moon Empire nor the Radiant Moon Empire will exist. Of course, that includes you and everything you own. As he spoke, he stretched out a hand. A black gem appeared in the palm of his hand, as black as ink, with a strange, eerie glow flowing through it. This is something the Black Moon priests entrusted to me to give to you. The valley suddenly fell silent. The Night Witch's gaze froze instantly as she stared at the gem, remaining silent for a long time. This aura, it's hers. She finally spoke, her tone tinged with complexity. The sound was ethereal, yet it conveyed a profound and thought-provoking meaning. It turns out to be a message from the current first Black Moon priest. Burning Bones suddenly turned around and looked at the Night Witch. Does this mean that his last support, his grandmother, is going to abandon them? His eyes were filled with doubt, yet he dared not interrupt at that moment. At this moment, they could only desperately hope that the Night Witch would protect them, as if grasping at a straw. Shunliexing gripped Fenga's arm tightly, feeling an indescribable atmosphere enveloping him. The Night Witch lowered her head and gently closed her eyes. The dark moonlight fell again, making her figure seem even more ethereal. "I have seen the future." She spoke slowly, her voice sounding as if carried by a sorrowful wind from 1,000 years ago. "I have seen it all come to an end in destruction." Chapter 24:06 The Night Witch 3. The voice of the Night Witch echoed under the night sky, distant and profound, resonating in the hearts of everyone present. It was a scene of profound sorrow. The universe was coming to an end, and all races were heading towards their demise. All the efforts made by the Moon people over the past billions of years had ultimately been in vain. Human beings cannot defy fate. Everything is inevitable. Just like a spark, it will eventually burn itself out and become a flame that illuminates the universe. No one can stop it. This is the inevitability of fate. That's why I chose to escape, hiding in this dark sun forest, thinking I could escape that cruelty. But in the end, nothing can be changed. Her voice gradually faded, as if the weight of time had bent her back. Finally, she opened her eyes and looked at Fingu. Her gaze was no longer indifferent, but filled with maternal tenderness. "Child, fate cannot be changed. But how fate brings you is up to you. The decision is yours." Burning Bones' body trembled, and his blood seemed to boil at that moment. He knew that his grandmother would not choose to help them. In fact, he had anticipated this long ago, and he also knew that his actions were going against the will of heaven. But he was unwilling to accept it. Why should people believe in fate? Is it impossible for people to change their own destiny? Is it because of the word fate that a young girl in the prime of her life has to be sacrificed? No, he absolutely disagrees with that. He clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, and his voice, strained from the depths of his throat, was filled with an overwhelming determination. "Since that's the case, then let me decide for myself. I will duel him." He suddenly raised his head, his gaze fixed on Zhang Yi. Those eyes burned with anger, yet also shone with determination. "If you want to take Shunliexing away from me, then let's fight. If I win, you're not allowed to disturb my life with Shunliexing. No matter what the future holds, I will protect her with my own hands." Shunliexing shuddered, and tears welled up uncontrollably. She reached out to grab Fingu, but he gently patted the back of her hand to comfort her. Burning Bones' gaze was as firm as a flame, unwavering in the slightest. Zhang Yi watched all this quietly, his eyes darkening slightly. As an elite member of the Shadow Warriors, Zhang Yi had a complete grasp of all of Burning Bones' intelligence. With an ability index of 42,000, he possesses exceptional talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to escape the pursuit of the two great empires and flee here with a meteor shower. However, for Zhang Yi now, his fighting ability is no longer sufficient. As long as the Night Witch doesn't interfere, this battle will be a foregone conclusion. Zhang Yi glanced at the Night Witch, who understood his meaning and said calmly, "I will not interfere with your fate." Zhang Yi finally felt relieved. He slowly spoke, his voice calm and firm. "All right, I accept your challenge." His answer was calm, yet it struck like a thunderbolt, instantly making the air in the valley incredibly heavy. The Night Witch sighed softly and slowly closed her eyes. Black moonlight fell, covering Burning Bones' shoulders and illuminating Zhang Yi's figure. The atmosphere at the bottom of the valley was completely tense at this moment, as if the entire dark sun forest was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable duel to begin. The eye contact between Fingu and Zhang Yi was like the collision of flame and abyss, neither willing to back down. The gears of fate began to turn slowly at this moment. The air at the bottom of the valley seemed to freeze suddenly, and in the deathly black fog, only the heavy breathing of burning bones could be heard. He slowly stood up, his body shrouded in a tattered black cloak, the cloak fluttering in the wind. The moonlight shone on his face, revealing his ugly features, his angular face twisted, as if branded by flames and scars. Those eyes were blood-red like fire, burning with an indomitable and mad will. A white-bone scimitar suddenly materialized in his hand. The blade was curved and menacing, gleaming with a deathly white light, as if it had been forged from a mountain of corpses and a sea of bones, carrying a chilling aura of death. Earthlings! Burning Bones let out a low growl, his voice like that of a wild beast, filled with endless hatred and obsession. Today, regardless of life or death, I will protect Shunliuxing. No one will be able to take her away. Before he finished speaking, his body suddenly trembled, and a jet-black light burst forth from within him. Eternal Dark Moon. That was his power, and also the source of the Night Witch's bloodline's fury. The next instant, a dark moon appeared behind him, like a crescent moon that devoured the light, slowly rotating. As he uttered his low incantation, the crescent moon suddenly burst forth with a blazing black light, as if it were about to devour the entire valley. A piercing buzzing sound filled the air, and the flesh and blood of the Burning Bones rapidly boiled under this force. His muscles instantly swelled, veins bulged, and blood seeped from his skin, being swallowed by the black light and transformed into new power that flowed into his entire body. To sacrifice one's life. His growl was filled with madness and despair.
Boom.
The ground shattered, and Burning Bones' figure transformed into a black streak of light. His white bone scimitar, carrying a chilling arc of light, slashed fiercely towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi did not move. Only his eyes remained calmly fixed on what lay ahead. The myriad manifestations of the universe circulated around him, forming an invisible barrier that covered his body. Clang! The white bone scimitar slashed down fiercely, but only stirred up a ripple-like wave, failing to cut even an inch. A look of horror flashed in Burning Bones' eyes, but he did not back down. Instead, he roared, and the light of the eternal dark moon behind him shone even brighter. He raised his knife again, slashing, sweeping, and thrusting, his whole being seemingly transforming into a black, raging tide. Each flash of the blade was accompanied by the burning of his life. Each strike caused blood to spill out and spill onto the soil at the bottom of the valley. Boom, boom, boom. The continuous crashing sounds echoed as the white bone scimitars attacked like a storm, yet they could not shake Zhang Yi's defense. That invisible barrier was like an insurmountable chasm. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't cross it. Even the most powerful energy attack, when it falls upon the myriad phenomena of the universe, is like spring rain falling into a pond, causing only ripples without any waves. Zhang Yi remained calm throughout, as if he were watching an inevitable outcome. Your strength is indeed quite good, but... He spoke softly, his tone utterly calm. You have absolutely no chance in front of me. Burning Bones roared in response, blood gushing from its mouth and nose, staining its chin red, yet it still gripped the white bone scimitar tightly. I don't believe in fate. And I don't believe in you either. His eyes were completely bloodshot, the flame of life burning to its extreme. The eternal dark moon behind him trembled violently, as if it would shatter at any moment. He leaped up suddenly, gripped the knife with both hands, and gathered his last bit of strength into the tip of the blade. Break it for me. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you.